What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily, the second one of 2022. And we've got an interesting guest on. We've got Chris MacKenzie, the CEO of BPI Sports, well-accomplished natural bodybuilder. You can see behind him some medals, some trophies hanging around in there in his home gym. So the three of us are very excited to talk to Chris tonight and, just give you guys some insight as to, what goes on in his life, both as a, CEO, as a competitor, and just dive into things. So welcome, man, to the podcast. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no worries. Hang on, there it is. Had to get rid of the live mess. Yeah, nice to be here. Thank you, guys. I'm a big fan of all three of you. Follow you on a couple of my accounts, and I think you guys do a great job. I mean, your YouTube page is really admirable, by the way. You should get a special shout out for that, because YouTube ain't easy, right? So
YouTube, yeah, for anybody that wants to get into vlogging and stuff, highly advise against it, because it's a lot of work for minimal at best return.
Yeah, it is. It's so much more work than Instagram, for example.
Oh, for sure.
People don't realize.
Oh yeah, the YouTube videos I do, they're bare bones at best, right? There's no fancy editing. It's my phone's set up or I'm holding it, and you gotta get the clips, you gotta edit them, you try to apply some creativity, and I get, if I get 100 views, I'm happy, which is nothing. And people are like, oh, you can make money off YouTube. Yeah, with hundreds of thousands of views on a regular basis, which I do not get.
Yeah.
So
well, a lot of those people spend too. I don't mind just jumping right into things. One thing that I find, because obviously working in the industry and running a supplement company, a lot of people really feel their content's good, and a lot of time it is. But when you look at people that do it for a living, you don't realize the cost at which they do it. We work with Mike O'Hearn, perfect example. He has a full-time video guy on his payroll, not on our payroll. That's what he pays to have his content ready at will. I think a lot of people say, well, I can bench 405 or whatever, but if you can't get it together right, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're going to be outclassed by people that spend more. A lot of people also spend their own ad dollars. They're paying to promote and drive traffic. It's crazy, but yours is organic, which is awesome. And the other thing that you have, which is a major asset, you started a while ago and you have a lot of content, and the existing content allegedly feeds into all the algorithms and makes you more established. Certainly doesn't feel that way when you're doing it right, but it definitely, for anyone starting up now, it definitely
when I started, obviously it was the aspirations of being a YouTuber and all that kind of stuff, right? And a fitness influencer and all that bullshit. But right now, I purely do it to document my preps, just to watch later with my kids when I'm 50 years old. And I know all of my viewers are either friends of mine, followers through social media, and probably a fraction of them are stumbled onto your channel out of nowhere through YouTube or whatever, right? So, the people that do watch it are the people that genuinely are invested in my journey, which I guess at the end of the day is kind of hitting the goal that I have. But my aspirations of 1 million YouTube subscribers and stuff are very far down the list now as far as importance goes.
What are you, about 30, I'm guessing? I should know, but I don't.
Subscribers?
No, years old.
Oh, I'll be 28 in 2 weeks.
20. Oh, wow. Well, happy approaching birthday. I got some good news for you. 28 to 40 is actually an awesome time for bodybuilding.
That's what everybody that we've talked to, that's kind of the next, we're all the same age. So the next tier above us, let's say 35 to 44, has said it's the best. And if you look at from a natural bodybuilding perspective, that muscle maturity, I think if you were to average out the age of pro winners, pro cards, probably late 30s, 36, 37, I would say. You get the odd young buck that hits it really young, but I would say most guys that turn pro, it's not before 30. I would say if you averaged it out, right?
No, definitely. I was really happy that I kind of thought, I always said, and my wife's in the other side of the camera, but I always thought let me just try this till I get to be about 30, and then it'll be, and then at 30 you realize, you're still getting stronger. I'm a big believer in the gym, right? Am I getting stronger? Are my sets getting better? Are my weights going up? And even during prep, I'm more gym than diet compared to most guys. People always say it's like 90% diet. I mean, for me, it's like 50-50. But then again, I'm never really the most conditioned guy. So maybe I should learn from guys like you guys. But no, and I mean, when you're 31, 32, 33, and you're getting an extra 10 pounds on your deadlift every month, and then, and you're actually a great, I know you're lighter than I would imagine you are. You're like 170 and under. And I see you deadlifting, 5 plates for reps. I mean, that's really strong. So I give you a lot of credit for that. And that shit just keeps going up as you get older. It's nuts. And then like part of my personal story is like, when I was 39, I won what I considered a big show. It was like the Team Universe. It was back when it was natural. Didn't win the overall, but I won my weight class. It was my goal in life. And the kid that beat me was awesome. And he went on and won 3 pro shows the next year. So it was like a, no shame type of thing.
For sure.
Right. And then we moved to Florida and I was like, fuck it. I guess that's it. I've done it. And my wife actually got sick at the time. She got lymphoma and had to go through chemo. So I didn't work out that much and it was focused on her getting better, which she housed and aced and got better real fast and right back to real life after 9 rounds of chemo or 11. But then so now I'm 40, right? And now I go back in the gym and I'm like, shit, man, I'm still kind of, the improvement curve is still there, even at 40, 42, 48. And I will say this though, I'm turning 50 this year. And this is the first year where the things are starting to catch up, the hips hurt and the shoulder hurts. But for a guy like you who's only 28, that's another, I don't know if this is encouraging or depressing. That's another 22 years in the gym. So.
No, and that's half the motivating factor, right? Like I used to, and I mean, we can probably all attest to this, that when you start out, you have all these lofty goals that, I want to be this by 25, I want to be this by 26. And I think the more I've matured in the sport and the more I've networked, obviously the 3 of us in our conversations, and then, through the podcast and just speaking with athletes from all different perspectives, you really can do this a long time and progress for a long period of time. And for me, knowing what I've able to do through this off season, James is going to have a good chunk of time off. And then my next off season, as I go into my early 30s, I really think we can make some significant progress in those years. And then, like you said, even into your 40s, right? I mean, Jeff Alberts is probably one of the best prime examples of this, as someone that's been in the game for 30 plus years. And he's a stud, right? Like anybody that looks at Jeff's like, holy shit. And you're like, yeah, man, 30 years of training consistently, hiccups here and there, but as a whole, just kind of stuck to it, right? Come in waves. There's times of good, times of bad, but as a whole, just was a bodybuilder for 30 years. And the dude's incredible, right?
Yeah. No, you're totally right, man. You're totally right.
I think that's huge for some of our listeners to hear too from you, Chris, because I mean, especially in some of Reddit and some of these other group chats and things, you see a lot of the younger kids throw around genetic potential. And it's oh, I'm 3 years in, I must be reaching my genetic potential soon. It's well, first off, you have no idea what that even means or what it is, because nobody does. And you're 3 years in, may seem like a long time right now because you've changed a lot in 3 years, but you're nowhere near anything. And I think we probably go ahead.
How old were you when you started working out?
Bodybuilding specific, I was 21 probably. Yeah.
What about just weightlifting? Were you in high school and you found the weight room? And
so off and on in high school. I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I really got into it when I was playing college soccer because I was just getting beat up on the field. So I started lifting my freshman year of college pretty much.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's a late start. A lot of guys, start in those high school years. But the difference between us and now I'll put you guys into the older group and them is bodybuilding is pretty addictive, right? And all these people that it's the big joke, you do one show and then you tell everybody you're a coach now or whatever. But the younger guys, they get into it so fast and so hard. I mean, I was lucky because even though I always enjoyed it, I never lost myself in the delusion of competing. And I've competed a lot. I mean, we're talking probably 40 shows in my life, which is, I'm obviously older, so it's not quite as dramatic sounding, but those young guys, they just get into it, they live it, they breathe it. And, 3 years, 4 years of thinking you're an actual bodybuilder and, thinking you're living the Ronnie Coleman Netflix special lifestyle,
yeah,
you realize like, oh man, maybe I don't have a genetic potential, So no, it's funny. You have to have that reality check, which is I know all you guys have careers and families as well. I listened to your episode earlier today about traveling for work and trying to come back from a road trip and go right into a show, and that's what these like younger kids don't realize.
Yeah, and that's something we've talked about. I feel like we bring this up briefly in every episode, but it's something that we the three of us try to really drill home, because I think so many people, I myself at times, I'm sure James, Dan can maybe attest to it, is when you feel like if you're not 100% of the time, that you're not going to get the results, right? Because you have these people online, and it's so easy to get caught up with what other people are doing and posting and thinking that that's 100% true when potentially it's not. But it's like the people that just a day in, a day out, eat, sleep, and breathe, blah 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 blah, this is bodybuilding, this is my life. When like you said, we've all got full-time jobs. I just got married, James is married with kids. I mean, Dan's probably the closest of the three of us that could, quote unquote, live a full bodybuilding lifestyle.
I try as hard as I can to do that. I'm trying to make it. I try to make it so I can.
Even those differences between the two of us and you, Dan, like just from a day-to-day lifestyle standpoint, it could on the outside look like, well, obviously Dan's going to progress better than the two of us. But, I think a lot of people really underestimate what, like, I don't know, 75 to 85% accuracy over a long period of time can really get you. Cause I'm like my off season, like I tell people straight up, like I didn't track things. Like I weighed all my food, but it's like my wife and I, we probably went out for dinner like 2 or 3 times a week on average. Like I wasn't, if I wanted ice cream, I went and had ice cream. Friday, we probably had pizza every Friday night for like 8 months straight. People are like, and I made the best progress I've ever made in my life. Right. So it's just, I think it's really important for people to understand that.
Well, you're really in it. The real bodybuilding lifestyle is not having to try that hard, and we all know this. It's almost like being in a trance, or, you mentioned you play soccer. It's like the 3 steps before you kick the ball in the goal. You know exactly what you're doing. And that soccer analogy, you're going to take those 3 steps and kick the ball, even if a fucking bomb goes off in the background, because your mind's already down that path. So for a guy like me, listen, I know what I eat. I know what I like to eat. I know how to cook my chicken. I know how to cook my ground beef. I know how many egg whites I can handle in a day before I fucking puke all over the place. And I just, you just do it, and it's no big deal. And I think that's part of the difference between like getting into it and falling in love and then actually being in love. And it's like a marriage, you don't have that crazy romance when you're married for 5 or 10 years, but you probably love your wife more. It's the same thing with bodybuilding. So you're what? You're like, I think if I'm following right, you're 12 weeks out from a show now?
This weekend will be 11. So yes.
And you're in Canada, I know. So what organization is it in Canada? The CPA?
Yeah. So the big one here is the CPA, which is, our version of like the NPC. So it's affiliated with the IFBB. Now, my big goals in bodybuilding aren't within that federation. Like I have, if I never turn IFBB pro, like I don't lose sleep over that. My big goals are within the WNBF primarily, I would say, is like the big one for me. I'm doing an OCB show as well. That's the first one.
Is it an OCB show in Canada, or is it?
No. So I got to come to the States. So I got to go. The OCB one's in Syracuse. April 2nd, and then the WNBF one's in Rochester, April 23rd, which is the same show I did in 2019, going back with a vengeance, hopefully locking in a win. And then in April as well, there's some local CPA shows that I'll do just because I'm in shape.
Awesome.
So there's 4 shows in April that I'm going to just run like a man on a mission and then shut her down and be done. So, we've got quite a few options, but yeah.
So now we'll get a little gossipy on our side of the industry, right? So I've only done 1 WNBF show in my entire life, and it was a great show. It was a long time ago. I can make a couple complaints about it. Like they did the drug testing the morning of the show. So by the time you got on stage, it was like, it was like 3:30 in the afternoon. You already ate all your rice cakes and everything. but it was in the mid 90s or late 90s. So you still had a ton of competitors. It was fun. I know, Dan, you're not in love with the OCB. I know that like the OCB now isn't the OCB that I knew back when I was more into it. But the interesting thing with the OCB is they have a lot of shows and a lot of competitors that, so a lot of stuff
there's good things about the OCB actually, and that technically where my pro card's held. So
right.
I have strong opinions about some of their policies and other things, but yeah, there's definitely positives of the OCB.
Well, I
there's
feel
some
like
great shows.
James is just grinning right now.
I feel like there's like, it's almost like a corporate OCB and then all your individual promoters. I don't really know anyone at the highest levels there. I mean, I've met that Sully guy a couple of times. He's very nice in person. So, hopefully they'll hear some of the disgruntled murmurs across the internet from competitors and, work it out, because they're a great organization with a ton of shows and, we got to root for them and everything. So I hope they work out.
I think it's important for people to voice their opinion too, the athletes to voice their opinion and not feel like these organizations, just have a stranglehold on them. That's my take.
Dude, I agree. Listen, this shit's not big enough for them to boss us around. I mean, there's, it's not like the world of natural bodybuilding is like overflowing with athletes or anything. They should fight. The organization should feel the pressure to get you into their organization, not the other way around.
Especially some of the guys, especially like high quality athletes, and like even more so high quality athletes with like a social media following. Like if I was an organization, man, I would be like scouring the internet,
dying for you guys.
Oh man, like you take someone like AJ, who's got almost 50,000 followers, which is like, as a young natural bodybuilder, like that's a good chunk of following. I don't know how. I mean, he's in pretty tight with the UKD FBA, INBA now. But anyways, like guys like who have a bit of pull in the industry that could bring some eyes, you know what I mean? Like I know straight up probably 20 to 25 people intend to drive down and watch me compete from Canada. So like, I mean, not that I'm anybody that's anybody, but I mean, that's ticket sales.
You have a big podium, man. I mean, you do. And you're right. I mean, I've never actually promoted a show. I mean, I've helped out a couple guys promoting shows in my area. And I will tell you, every athlete in the show, I'm sure they have a formula for it, equals 3 people in the seats and 1 person with a backstage pass.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a $500 punch on the ticket if they can do it right. So,
sure.
So there's that. What about you other guys? Who's getting, I mean, Dan, I know from what I heard this morning when I listened to your series, you're ready to take it easy after a big fall, not fall like tripping. I mean, a big fall of competing this season.
Yeah.
With America and everything.
Yeah,
you live like an hour north of Pittsburgh.
Like 25 minutes actually. So I'm just outside the city, which made the Yorton really, really convenient last year.
That's miserable up there, man.
It's I like Pittsburgh. It's the people here are nice. The weather can be a little rough, but the town is nice. The area I'm in is really nice.
How far are you past Ross Park Mall?
Not far
Isn't
at
that
all.
The big
that's
mall
like,
yeah, okay.
That's like 10 minutes away. I was there
so
maybe a week ago. Yeah.
You're not that far north then. Okay.
Not far at all. No.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I used to, back when BPI did a lot of business with GNC, I was in Pittsburgh, all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
Made my way around to all the stores and everything up there. So Good town. I mean, Pittsburgh's nice. The weather sucks and it is cold.
Yeah.
It's only cold for like 11 months out of the year though. It's not
yeah,
I don't want to hear anybody talk about cold right now.
Yeah,
that's true. I forget you're in Canada.
These two are both further north than me, so it's cold for me, but it's colder for these guys.
What about you, Doctor? Where are you?
I am just south of the border from Leroy, so I'm Rochester, New York. So
man.
it's a bit chilly up here too.
You guys got to all move, man.
Well, I actually just moved back here.
If Canada,
we all own houses in our.
If Canada keeps doing all this bullshit, we might be fucking out of here.
Well, I grew up outside. I grew up outside New York, but I live in Florida now. It's great living down here. You guys should make your way down.
Maybe I'll retire down there like everyone else. I feel like
everyone else, right?
Yeah.
True. It's true. And the Canadians too. Pompano Beach is the town over for me. And it's like, it's where all Canadians seem to come for the winter. It's like a joke down here.
There you go.
Well,
there you go.
We always joke about being snowbirds, and that might be sooner rather than later.
Yep. You see all the Quebec license plates, and they all come. I guess the French guys come down.
So, that's a long drive.
Yeah, but I think a lot of them come down for like the winter, so you can spend 2 days on the road for, a month or two.
Worth it.
So the birds fly south and the Canadians drive south.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, what about you? Are you competing at all soon? I mean, I was following along last year. I know you did 2 or 3 shows, right?
Yeah.
And you do classic physique. So
I actually, so this was my first year not competing classic physique. I did a transition to bodybuilding. Came into this year with some high expectations and kind of got a beat down on me. So I competed against some really good competition, some really good guys, and I came in like previous seasons never placing worse than top 3, and then got like 4th consecutively in my 2 shows and decided I got to take it back to the drawing board.
What shows did you do? I know I was fine, but I don't remember offhand. What shows did you do?
So I did an OCB show in New Jersey. I forget the exact name of it, but it was in Atlantic City. And then that was one of Joe Franco's shows. Really good show.
Yeah. I knew that kid back when I lived in Jersey. Yeah.
Good show. It was at the same venue for the Mr. A. So I got to see that before those guys went there. Really cool. And then I did the INBF show in Utica, New York.
Okay.
And yeah. So same as Leroy, like I mainly have competed OCB, but INBF, WNBF is kind of where I want to take things. That's just, my interests, and, WNBF Worlds to me is like the pinnacle in the US. So I want to one day hopefully make it there, whether on the amateur or the pro side, hopefully pro.
But we'll see. What I noticed a lot with like the top tier guys this year, because I always wonder like, what is the best natural show, right? And I know Mr. America, I know Mark, he really put a lot of effort into it. Seem like a lot of the really guys that are either top tier or willing to do what it takes to be into the top tier, as in like show up at 5 major shows in a year, they seem to do all of them this year. Like that's the new strategy for the Natty guys to put themselves on the map. They do IP Worlds, WNBF Worlds, INBA Vegas show. They all made it out to Mr. America. I mean, it seemed like these guys, and like you guys have done too. They maybe did classic in one and open in another.
I've done that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think like that's what people are doing now, which is cool because I personally don't feel that there is a premier show for natural bodybuilding at the moment, just my gut feeling. And, I really and truly used to believe that the Team Universe was like the show because it was the only way to become an IFBB pro, which is truly the big leagues, right? But that show was always, the real hardcore Natty guys always poo-pooed it because they didn't have faith in the drug testing or anything. I mean, I know a bunch of guys that have won it, and I would say from a personal knowledge, they were, pretty adherent to what natural means, as in like totally natural. But, there's always been that kind of resistance. I did do the Yorton Cup one year. I got my ass whooped. I came in like almost last. I think that there's a lot of emphasis on conditioning, or at least there was the year I did it, which is so long ago, like 2007, I think it was. Like I said, as a competitor, conditioning is not my strongest suit as a competitor. Fortunately, I have some other things that compensate for it. But I mean, you guys definitely get leaner and harder and better muscle separation than I've ever gotten. But live and learn, keep trying. I'm only 50. I'll figure it out soon.
That's right.
There you go.
That's why there's masters and grandmasters categories, right?
Yeah, that's right. No, fuck that. You got to do the open in every show. Regardless, you got to throw your hat in the ring, and then it's cool to say, "All right."
I love that. I love that sentiment. Throw your hat in the ring.
Yeah. And then listen, go try it, whatever. But I mean, if I ever want to compete and I don't feel like I could be, in the mix in the open, I would say that you're not ready to be on stage. The only people I think that should get a pass from it are really if you're a novice, you're coming into it and you just want to see. Especially if you're doing your own diet. Like I work with a lot of friends, like kids in the neighborhood, whatever, that are getting into it. Do that novice show, get your feet wet. Don't stress about the competition side, stress about the learning side. But for guys like us, if you're going to say, I'm just going to do the masters because, my time is past, you should realize that nobody wants to see an old man in a Speedo who can't even like get in good enough shape to stand next to somebody, let alone compete with them. So that's when you have to call it quits, I think.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I want to pick your brain on, I just got the thing that we got about 10 minutes left. So I want to just, you are in the industry for a very long time. You've been experienced, you've been around the block a really long time. I guess what would be like the biggest things you'd tell, younger athletes, even guys like us who have, we've been around for a while, but obviously nowhere near as you, like as far as longevity in the sport, maintaining that, I guess, love and passion maybe for it to keep in it for so long. Like what would you tell people?
Well, it's a nice question to ask. I mean, honestly, the one thing I've always said, and it keeps me going to this day, is let your successes refeed into your motivation. I mean, no one ever is hungrier to bench more than the day that they just benched more. If you can hit 315 for a second rep, you go back to the gym the next day being like, fuck it, it's time to get 3, So let those motivations continue to push you. And as I mentioned earlier, I was really surprised with my own life how even into my late 40s, you're still getting better. I mean, ironically enough, my deadlift, which I was never a big deadlifter when I was younger. I wish I was. I could never figure out whether to do deadlifts with legs or back, so I never even got into it. But then I used to train with this kid named Tim Martin, who you guys probably would know because he's won just about every natural show in the world back in the 90s and early 2000s. He won the WMBF Worlds, Team Universe, he's a huge deadlifter and he can pull almost 700 pounds. So when he and I started working out together, I was like, okay, time to learn this deadlift game. And I remember I deadlifted 225 for 30 reps once and thought like, I'm in it now, and then you learn. So not to get sidetracked, just, let your successes keep motivating you and keep setting goals. And that helps. And then I'm going to do a self segue here. So bear with me. So for the younger guys or guys like you, I know that with my position at BPI, one thing people always want to know is like, okay, we could talk about dieting and training for forever, and everybody has their own thoughts. By the way, my thought is you always have to train heavy. That's the punchline to it. But for a career as a natural bodybuilder, like what are some of the things you have to do if you really want to, be somebody in this game? One thing you could do is go out and win the biggest shows, because if you are legitimately taking first place in Mr. America or Yorton Cup or, WMBF Worlds, you're kind of on the map, whether you have Facebook or not, or Instagram or not. But if you want to really work at building a career, and I know a lot of people always want to get with a brand, the best thing you can do is build out your network. And it doesn't need to be just social media. Like I know personally everybody, I know Kent from the MBF. I know, Lingy Fu runs all the shows in the Midwest. I know the guys, I know Joe Franco, I know Paul, I know the OCB guys up there. I know all the promoters in Florida. So, be a part of the community. And it's a small community. I mean, once you compete a little bit, you wind up meeting everybody. And then
that's
also
that's one thing I've
organic,
noticed with like running the Natty News page is like everybody knows everybody.
Oh, totally. And, I mean, like when I was younger, I thought it was like everybody was like, firewalled from everyone else. And then it's like you do like an NGA show and a whatever, an OCB show a month later, and it's the same people sitting at the judging table because it's a community. There's only so many natty people that really care enough to show up and spend a Saturday judging. So I was, especially when I moved to Florida, because it's growing up in New Jersey, I just kind of knew everybody and I didn't have to meet them. When I moved down here, I knew nobody. And I wasn't even sure I would ever compete again. So I just, after my wife got through with her illness back then, I did one show and another show. And then all of a sudden you realize, that whole sense of community came back. And then I've been down here 10 years now, but I literally know everybody, every natty guy, every NPC guy, and they're all good people. And, you'll see some of the good trainers who you think are just training, NPC people show up at, one of the NGA is big in Florida, show up at some of the good NGA shows. I mean, Matt Anman has a couple really good shows. The Florida State, Florida Pro that Daryl promotes is a kick-ass show. If anyone's thinking about a good local show, it's kind of like in between national and local. I can't say enough good things about that one. I actually competed and won that show before he rebranded it as the Florida Pro. So I never got that Florida State title out of it, even though I had to win. And Daryl, actually, the promoter, he competed. He's the guy I had to compete against. It was funny. He kept promoting and competing. But like meeting those people and then networking, listen, if you want to be in this game as an athlete, you have to have a social media reach. And I'm going to tell everybody why right now. There are, right now on this call, 4 people with great physiques. Well, 3 and 1 old man, right? Great physiques are a dime a dozen. You know, people that can do things with their great physiques in terms of putting together content, they're still almost a dime a dozen. People who can motivate their network to do what they're recommending, you know, buy a product or even click on a website or say that BPI shirt is cool enough that I would want to wear that to the gym. Those are the people that are invaluable, right?
Yep.
So when we look at whether it's a brand ambassador or an athlete, the real question is, and I'm going to use like the business word, which is ugly. Do they convert? Do the people that care about them care enough to say, I'm going to buy this product or at least look at this product? Are they driving traffic? And that's what really matters. So the real challenge is, how do you make people care enough? And that's, Leroy, why I'm so impressed with what you do, because you've created multiple platforms. I mean, look, I said I know a lot of people in the sport. You're one dude I've never met. You're in Canada. You know, how the hell would I meet you?
Yeah.
You know, you're 20 years younger than me. But it happens because you've done a good job building your platform. You've pulled people in. And believe it or not, when I see things on Natty Daily News, I like pay attention and I follow the athletes you promote, and you've done a great job. So someone like you, or you guys, I should say, you have that value, and your personal thing, you don't ever need to compete again. I mean, maybe you do because it builds your story and content, but like, you've completed what a lot of athletes can't complete. The competition part just rounds out the story and adds for credibility. And then if you do fulfill your dream of winning the WNBF World or something, then you become like really one of the most valuable natural athletes, not just a really good one. You're a proven champion, and a proven champion with a big platform. So to all the young guys or middle-aged
guys,
guys
up as
who
shit
wonder
right now.
I mean, yeah, I'm here to throw out compliments. So don't be too, no, but for everybody who's wondering how to do it, that's how you do it. And the one thing I would say is, so what I said maybe minimizes competing, but let me just come back to this, because I'm also a competitor. If you do compete, you better go out there and do fucking great, because you're putting all eyes on you. And nothing shuts people up more than putting your money where your mouth is. You know, we've all seen a lot of guys, and probably have them go to our gym, tell you they're competing and document their journey, and then never make it to stage because their mom's sister's brother had a flat tire that day and he had to eat at a gas station and his whole diet went to shit, which we all know is a bullshit story, right? Document it, do it, but then execute it and do well. And, you know, I know 2 of you guys have your pro card. I know, Doctor, you're still chasing it down. When you get it, but that's another notch. You know what I mean? So, and we all know too, I'll say this, you can get your pro card whenever you want it, just pick the right show. And that's one of the problems with natural bodybuilding. I don't want to get on that soapbox right now because I know we're tight on time, but I definitely think that all organizations need some better pro qualification criteria. And that's something we should work on in our sport. And I know literally myself, I've won about 8 pro cards that don't mean anything to me because I competed against like 2 teenagers and that proverbial old man who shouldn't have been in the open, you know? And then you walk out with, a big pro elite, banner or some shit like that, you know? So anyway, that's my soapbox.
I've found myself in that boat a little bit with how I won my pro card, but for me, I leveraged it and okay, well, I'm going to use this and see how I really stack up and throw myself straight into the fire. So that's the way I took it. I threw myself, I earned a pro card at an quote unquote easy show and then went straight to Mr. America. And you
I heard. That's all. You know,
so
one last question. Like, one problem I have about the big natural shows, and I guess it's because I still have a love for the IFBB NPC, just because I grew up when the magazines were big and all that. Sometimes for myself, and this is purely me, not how other competitors should feel. I love doing natural shows. I've been natural my entire life, and it's great to get on stage with other natty guys. I also know that the level of competition is a little easier, right? Because you're not cheating the system. I always feel like if I'm going to say this is one I'm going to go all out for, like I'm going to give it my all. I always feel like if I'm going to give it my all, I should jump into the NPC because I know I can compete with those guys. And I feel like if you're really going to just go for it, you got to go for it in the biggest of big leagues. And for me personally, that's kind of stopped me
All right, due to some brief technical difficulties with Zoom, we got booted out, but we're back in. And, I can't recall exactly where we were finishing off, but I guess, man, I really appreciate you coming on. And, I think the insight that you gave with regards to like, young athletes and staying in the sport, making yourself valuable as an athlete, not only as a competitor, but as a business, right? Because you can really make yourself a business, which you see a lot of enhanced athletes do. You don't see it too much on the natural side, but hopefully as we continue to grow the news page and continue to network that, we can help be a catalyst in that change. It was a good chat. We didn't get too far into training and diet. I think we had a nice broad, a different way of looking at things, which was good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you guys are doing it. So all you have to do is keep doing it. And on the training and diet note, don't eat a lot of junk food and lift real heavy and do it for like 30 years and it all comes together real easy.
There you go. You heard it from the man himself.
Secrets are out. Yeah.
Yeah, secrets are out. Social media, business-wise, man, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it? Obviously, you're pretty big on Instagram.
I answer all my DMs, man. You can hit me up, BPI_Chris. And I would love to chat with anybody that wants in. And I want to chat with you guys. I'll set up whatever you guys want. You want to get on with BPI, we can set up a coupon code and referrals and stuff like that. It's that easy. You just meet the right people and bring some value, as you all do. And they're going to want you more than you want them. So I look forward to chatting with you all as well.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you enjoyed this episode with Chris, let us know. And I think we're going to get a lot of good feedback on this one, and we'll get him on for another round later on in the year. Obviously, follow us on Instagram. We mentioned at the beginning, we're closing in on 10K. We had the goal of hitting it by the end of last year, but I think well into the spring, there's no reason why we can't hit that 10K. So thank you guys for the support, because without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. We couldn't be chatting with guys like Chris. So thanks again, guys. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe to the channel for future episodes. Follow us on Instagram at Natty_News_Daily. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thanks, guys.